Hi guys, it's Blackie, and today I'm back over here with my great mentor, Sir Francis McGOWIN, or Grouch as I affectionately call him. He has been such a great influence on my life. I am merely a shadow of Francis McGOWIN. I'll tell anybody that. Well, we were sitting talking about some of the old South and things that we grew up with that are gone for today. And we thought we'd let you listen in a little bit. So we were talking about old truck farms and portable stores.
Right. You know, our generation, people still dressed up for important events.
Yep.
When you went to church, you wore a coat and tie if you were male. Female, you wore a proper dress. Women wore white gloves if you were older than 8 years old.
Yep.
And the older women, the married women and all, wore a hat, and unmarried girls wore a band across the top of their head because it was the right thing to do.
Yep.
Now, boys could get in trouble, as we were talking about. They were allowed to do stupid things like climb the water tank and then afraid to come down the fire department and come get them.
Yeah.
However, they were expected to do the right thing when they had a choice. And that included opening doors for ladies or carrying baggage for someone who had too much or something like that. And
well, you remember after church, everybody wanted to stand around and talk.
Yep.
And the boys would take their jackets off and you'd throw a football. You wouldn't play football because you didn't want to get your clothes dirty. But they'd be throwing football or throwing a baseball or throwing frisbees and stuff like that. Of course, all the ladies would get all together and start talking about stuff. All the men would get up under the shade tree, be sitting there smoking, talking about fishing, camping, the price of peanuts or fertilizer or cows or whatever.
Well, this was visitation time because on the little truck farms or even bigger, you worked during the week. You didn't see people. You didn't have TV. You had a radio. You went to bed not too long after dark. You got up at daylight. And on the weekend, or if there was a revival, or if court was in session, it was a big thing, and everybody that could went. It was not only a social hour, it was an exchange of local news.
Well, that was also weddings.
Yeah.
Weddings were often planned around planting because
or football games.
Football. I remember football.
Right. You did not get married on certain days.
No.
Alabama, Auburn.
No, forget
what have you.
No, you do that. Nobody's coming to your wedding because they're going to be busy listening to the game.
You weren't going to have any bridesmaids.
Unless the game was going to be in the afternoon and you were having a sunrise wedding or something.
Yeah, something like that.
And I remember one of those that it was the Alabama and Tennessee game. It was going to be a big game.
That was the big game back then.
That was the big game. And
Auburn was still API.
Oh, yeah. Well, they wanted a 7 a.m. wedding. Everybody showed up right before sunup, you know. They had the church lit up. They did the wedding. And ostensibly they said because they were going to be going, and the grandmother had actually paid them, bought them an airplane ticket. And so they were going to actually fly somewhere for the honeymoon, so they'd connect the flight. Bull! It was because the Alabama game was coming on like at 2 o'clock, and this little shindig better be over and done by then. And they had the wedding. It was really nice. It was over by about 9 o'clock. Of course, they've taken pictures and stuff like that. And by, I would say, 10:30 or 11, everybody was cranking up and leaving.
Sure.
Because they had to get home, get out of the clothes, get some lunch or something like that, because they were going to be sitting by the radio or watching the old black and white TV if you had a TV, because it was going to be coming on. And those that farm hands and stuff that couldn't be, they had it going in the truck. You know, we remember that.
Yeah.
You know, if the game was on, you'd be riding down the road with the game on, and it'd be everybody, sitting beside somebody in a parking lot would have the damn thing on, listening to games. It was a huge social
In
event.
those days, the big games in the state of Alabama was Alabama versus Tennessee and Auburn versus Georgia.
Auburn versus Georgia.
And I know you got a lot of listeners out there, but if them Georgia Bulldogs didn't cheat this last game, that was Auburn. And I'm not an Auburn fan at all.
know.
You know that. Those Auburn Tigers would have whooped their doggy butt everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you. And the same way with Oklahoma.
Yep.
If that ref hadn't have been utterly stupid or whatever that day, Oklahoma would have lost that game.
Yep.
Because that was the last touchdown. And later on, they came and ruled it was illegal, but the game was over and in the books. And
But they down here, old men will get together and argue about a game that happened 30 years ago
30 years ago,
or older.
they still talk about the Iron Men at the Episcopal College up there in eastern Tennessee that got on the train and went to Texas and came back and in 7 days played 5 major teams and beat them. Right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that was back in the 20s or 30s.
A century ago.
Yeah,
And they still it's a century ago now.
They'll still talk about it today. You'll hear people. I grew up here and my daddy talked about the Iron Men from that Episcopal school up there.
I remember uncles, which were all Alabama fans. I remember uncles.
How could you not be?
I honestly, to be honest, how I went to do rooting for Auburn was because of a Christmas present. My daddy took me to Sears and told me to pick out a jacket. And they had a jacket, a little rack that had, it looked like a bomber, like a pilot type jacket, slicky nylon. And they were red and said Alabama, or they were blue and said Auburn. And I liked blue better than I did red. I didn't give a damn about.
Know about football.
I didn't know about football. I was all of like 7 years old, and I picked the blue one. And I remember Daddy saying, "You really don't want the red one? The red one be pretty. You sure you don't want the red one?" And I liked blue better than I did red. And I picked that. Well, I got to school Monday morning, and 4 kids jumped on me and went to whooping up on me because I was wearing an Auburn jacket.
Sounds logical to me.
Yeah.
I don't see a thing wrong with that.
And because of that, I can't stand a bully anyway. I went to fighting back, and I didn't know why they jumped me. It's because of their fans. They were big, huge Alabama fans. Their family was Alabama fans. And I was one of them dang bastards coming in here with a blue Auburn Cal College jacket on, and they wasn't going to allow that in 2nd grade or 1st grade, whatever it was. And because of that, I, by God, became an Auburn damn fan. Now, we agree on this. We root for all Alabama teams.
That's right.
I root for Bama. I
That's
root for
right.
Auburn. I root for North
wanted to win
Alabama.
every game but one.
All of them. Troy State. But whenever they're playing each other, I got to root for Auburn. I mean, just got to be.
I know.
And
And I'm going to tell you, Auburn does win a national championship every 59 years.
exactly.
Because even a blind hog will find an acorn.
Yes, but at the same time, we win a championship maybe once, twice a century. We build a building around that thing. We put a light on it. We make pilgrimages up here to see the trophy. We put pictures of the players that were up there. Y'all use them for door stops. You broke the last 3 playing football with them. I don't even know why y'all even worrying about competing for national
That's
titles.
like
You got so many of them.
when Tennessee last year finally beat Alabama at home
Yeah.
and tore down the $1 million goalpost and
Yeah.
all the electronics in the field. And then took the goalpost down to the river and threw it in. And this great big celebration, it's because it just don't hardly ever happen.
Yeah. It's lightning strike.
Yeah.
It really is a
Now,
lightning
don't
strike.
get me wrong. I worship SEC.
Mhm.
And I know that there's an SEC because of the University of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
That's what created their football and their idea of a SEC championship. And it was between Florida and Alabama that year, and it was televised. There's no other conference championships in the nation. This was the first.
Well,
and Alabama won like they were supposed to on the last play of the game.
Of course.
Yeah.
The fourth quarter always belongs to Alabama. I know. I've heard
They
the
won
speech.
it on the last play because it looked like Florida was going to win. But that started the SEC because everybody looked at the money that Bama got and Florida got for that game, and they said, "Ooh, let us create a conference championship up here for the Big Ten." You know,
Well,
even
now,
though we only got 2 football teams, Ohio State and Notre Dame.
in Alabama, the thing we've heard all our lives
You know,
is,
you're going to hear about this.
oh,
from
heck yeah,
Fans everywhere.
there is.
But tell them that I shoot black powder, and in my day, I shot it very, very good.
Yes, you did. There's Alabama, there's Auburn, and then there's the whole kindergarten league, everybody else. That's what you. Who's playing today? Neither one's playing. Nobody's playing football today. Okay, we'll go. Well, Ohio State's playing such and such. Who cares? That's the kindergarten league. I don't care.
Well, you know, it's like, I watched them talk about the football season at the end of the season.
Yep.
And they say things like, well, Texas A&M's got a great season. They only lost 1 game. But it was to Alabama. And Vanderbilt had a great season and they only lost 1 game. But it was to Alabama.
Yep.
Like, that was to be expected. Well, it's not. That's darn good coaching and hard playing, what that is. And but that's the standard that the University of Alabama has set. And in the SEC, we know that that's the standard now that all colleges try to equal. And it shows that all of Nick Saban's assistant coaches went to major colleges. Florida, Texas A&M, Georgia, not the University of South Carolina, but that other team in South Carolina. But anyway, because they were good coaches.
Yes.
And they carried a good program within them. And then Florida gave this coach to Ohio State. And I got to tell you, Ohio State said, you know, that SEC knows how to play football.
They do know how to play football.
And they learned very well from that coach.
Well,
and Ohio State has been a football team ever since.
The rule is real simple. On any given game day, an SEC team will hand you your butt.
That's
I
right.
don't care how many they've won and lost. On any given game
day.
they will whip your butt.
That's right.
I remember many years ago, it was back in the 90s, I think it was Florida.
No, Vanderbilt.
No, when I'm remembering, it was like 91, 92. It was, I want to say it was Florida. The Gators were just whipping everybody. I mean, they said, and Alabama's going to play them. So Alabama's the only one that's got a chance. And they whooped Bama. It was a good fight, but they whooped Bama. And they were saying, well, this might be the year the Gators are going to go all the way.
Well, they won a national championship with it.
I know, but Auburn had lost like 3 games. And they weren't even paying Auburn any attention. And Auburn played them the week after they played Alabama. You know, Georgia, the Gators played Alabama. And they said, oh, the big game's going to be against Alabama. And Alabama did great, but they lost. The very next week, here comes Auburn. And Auburn whooped the snot out of them. It looked like a damn high school team. And the commentators are going, this don't even look like the same team we saw last week against Alabama. Well, they hadn't took Auburn serious. An SEC team will hand you your butt
On any given day. Yeah, because I can remember when Vanderbilt beat Bama, and Bama was number 1 in the nation.
Oh, yeah.
Vanderbilt wasn't even in the top 25.
Oh, yeah.
Vanderbilt remembers it too. that's an intellectual college, and
Well,
they read books that don't even get issued at the other.
ain't even got pictures or nothing.
Right.
Wow.
In the other SEC schools. And,
I tell you what, I won $50 the first week of the football season, college football season. I had a guy there at work where I worked, and he was just a big pain in the tail. And I told him, I said, you're throwing money around. You want to put a bet? I bet you the Tigers are going to beat Alabama. And him knowing I'm an Auburn fan.
I wouldn't have taken that
He
bet.
jumped on that bet, and oh yeah, they ain't got a chance. But what I said was, the Tigers are going to beat Alabama. And I made sure everybody heard me. The bet is the Tigers are going to whip Bama. LSU beat them that year. It wasn't Auburn beat them, it was LSU. But it was LSU Tigers. So I had Clemson Tigers, I had Auburn Tigers, and I had LSU. I had 3 chances to win this bet. Oh, he was mad whenever I came in, and they hadn't played Auburn yet, but they played LSU. And LSU won. That was the year that Bama went to the national title and beat them for the title. And he was saying,
Oh, yeah.
you lost. They ain't played yet. I said, no, I said the Tigers. And LSU Tigers count. I said Tigers. He had to pay me $50 on that one. He didn't like me after that.
Let's go back to our original premises. During when we came up,
Yes. We got
times
sidetracked.
was
Sorry.
still hard,
Yeah.
even after World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my family, the Orses, we had about 10 acres under what you'd call semi-cultivation
Mm-hmm.
there in Georgiana, about 5 or 6 blocks
Mm-hmm.
from downtown. We had plum trees, apple trees, pear trees, pecan trees, and peach trees,
Mm-hmm.
Scuppernong orchard,
Mm-hmm.
cow and a nanny goat for milk,
Mm-hmm.
ducks, geese, and 6 or 7 types of chickens and rabbits. And then we had about 3 acres under cultivation,
Mm-hmm.
because we had, our family was composed of it and the family servants. They was
Mm-hmm.
all family. We had all that to feed, about 4 or 5 families.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to supplement your cash money because there wasn't that much cash money out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to grow. All boys had a paper route. My paper route was, I got my papers for 4 cents a piece, and I got a nickel a piece for selling them.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on my bike, and I had 50-something papers a day that I had to ride through sand to deliver every afternoon. And but almost all boys had a after-job school, bagging groceries or working the gas pumps or.
For me, it was the weekends. My mom would take me down to Pruitt Chambers Grocery, a little small grocery store down on Geneva Highway. And I'd work from 7 to 7 bagging groceries. But I didn't get money. What it did was that went toward the pay the account, where Granny could call up during the week and say we needed bacon or whatever, and somebody run it to you and they'd put it on your account.
Yeah.
And so the money I made went back to that account, and at 12 o'clock they had a little deli counter there in the corner, and I'd either get a hamburger or a barbecue sandwich and a Coke for free. They'd give it to me. They'd just take it off the list. And some days I'd make enough money that I actually went into the plus, so you had a little surplus. Sometimes you brought it up within $1 or $2. There just wasn't that many people buying groceries right now. And next Saturday you'd be back, and that's how we did it. When I got older, I went to fishing and stuff like that to help out the family. It was fishing or hunting. And like we talked about, the trucks that would come around, you'd have these farmers that were truck farmers, and they'd come out and they'd have produce. And we had a great big old front porch, about the size of this deck. And all the little old ladies. I can still see that gentleman. Never knew him by name. Everybody called him Santa Claus because he had a long, big old full white beard. But he'd pull that truck up and he'd holler, "Y'all come get it." And these little old ladies would come out there, with their aprons on, the little change perks with a little bit of money, and they're buying peas, butter beans, squash, tomatoes, cucumbers, watermelon.
Very well, the women in my family, we had the black servants.
Mm-hmm.
And of course then we had the white side of the family, but they were all a family.
Mm-hmm.
All sitting on the front porch shelling.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was Indian summer hadn't gotten here,
Mm-hmm.
and it was still hot. Of course, we don't have Indian summer anymore, because this time of year would have been Indian summer, and we'd already had first frost.
Yep.
And we're not going to have first frost till late November or December.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they'd do. They'd come and they'd buy their peas or butter beans or whatever, purple hulls, and they'd bring them to our porch. And he knew to show up at 12 because Gene Reagan Farm Show was on.
Yeah.
And they could come out and get it. And then at 3:30, when all the programs was over, they'd all come to the front porch and everybody, they'd have pans. We're all shelling Clara's butter beans. And everybody'd sit there talking, shelling, till all of her butter beans was done. And then she'd have bags they'd pour them into. And then, now we're doing counts as purple hulls. And everybody'd go to shelling purple hulls. And in the next 2 hours, they'd shell all that stuff, while they were talking and socializing. And it wasn't a chore for any one of them because everybody was sharing the load, And then they'd go back.
Did you ever see the quilting bee?
My granny had a quilt frame that hung from the ceiling. That was my inheritance from my grandmother, was a queen-size bed quilting frame. And during the winter, them ladies would sit in there and they'd quilt while talking. And we're all going to come, all the local little ladies there on the street are coming to our house. And they were going on a Saturday because there wasn't any programs on Saturday. The men are watching football. They could give a ass about that. Or baseball or something. And they'd all be sitting in there talking and gossiping and everybody'd be quilting. And,
well, at my grandmother's house, and my family's, one side of my family had a lot of money. They were in timber business. One side of my family didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But at grandmother's, even though they didn't have what you'd call a lot of spending money, in the living room, we had this beautiful hand-carved furniture, marble-top tables, and yet in the middle was a quilting frame.
Yep. Hung
And
from
on
hooks.
Saturday, it'd get lowered down, and all the women would sit around it and talk, and they would decide what type of quilt they were going to make.
Mm-hmm.
All these different patterns had names,
Mm-hmm.
and they were historical. Some of them
Mm-hmm.
defined war between the states' battles.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them defined prominent weddings that had taken place, or what have you, or else time of the year. And they would quilt for their family, and they would make quilts for each other. And
You ever get to take the old Army surplus wool blankets and wash them all and tack them together because that was going to become the padding in between the two of them? You ever get to do that?
Oh yeah, we call that batting.
Batting, exactly what it was, but it was old World War II blankets
Right.
that they'd bought for next to nothing surplus, but it was a wool, wool padding that went inside the blanket. They'd use old Army blankets. And a lot of times the blankets were tore up or whatever, and you would make sure that those got put in the middle because there was usually 3 blankets, and make sure there was no ruffle or whatever. And so I remember many times my grandmother and I sitting at the kitchen table sewing those down, getting them all ready to become the liner inside the quilt.
Yeah, the batting.
The batting. Oh yeah, or sitting there, the cutting bees. cutting up all the scraps, we're making diamonds or we're making
You did
squares.
not throw away scrap. You didn't
did
throw
not.
away anything back then.
When a shirt was wore out, it got turned into a quilt or it got turned into rags. Same thing with pants.
Rolling store,
Oh yeah.
which was a 2.5-ton truck with a big box on the back, and it carried needles, scissors, thread, candy, nails, bolts of different sizes for farm equipment. Not many, but enough to carry a guy. It might not just fit, but it'd carry him until somebody was going to town. And like you said earlier, you'd hang a cup under the mailbox,
So they'd know that
and
you
they'd
needed
know that
something.
you needed something, and
Yep.
they're making it. Whoever made a trip to town stopped at a half a dozen places on the way.
Yep.
And
Yep.
because you had to share to make it.
Mhm.
Not everybody had a truck back then.
No, but it was a sign of some kind. Like
Right.
I told you, the family of ours, they'd take a coffee cup and hang out there. Some of it was a soup can or something. You know, it was something that you'd put hanging, and so when you're going up the dirt road, usually on a horse and wagon, you'd see it hanging on that front post.
What color was the wagon?
It was green with red spokes.
That's right.
That was
Green
old cotton
with
wagon.
red spokes.
Green with red wheels.
Prettiest thing you ever saw, with 2 match mules.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! Tall cotton.
And they had the takeout seats that you could put in
Oh, sure.
for hay rides or whatever. And then you'd take the seats out when you was actually hauling cargo in it. The minivans ain't got nothing on them.
No. And you'd see a wagon with hay on it. Ordinarily, the wagon that was 4 foot off the ground, the top of it would be 15 feet up in the air with that hay piled up. You couldn't see the driver hardly, and hanging out the back end. And you would think, how can those mules pull that?
Yeah.
But that was still in the late 40s and the 50s. You still had 10 mule farms and 20 mule farms.
Well, just about all the old farms that you went to, even if they had modern tractors and trucks, you'd still see an old wagon out behind the barn.
Sure.
And they'd take the tongue, hook it behind the tractor, and pull it from A to B. I saw a ton of those old green and red wagons. Still in the 60s and 70s, still on rural farms, still being used to be a cargo hauler on the farm itself, machinery like pumps or whatever.
Well,
And,
you know, these mom and pop stores, everybody's, granted, they're fascinated with Walmart and the cheaper prices and the unlimited stuff. It's got lots of stuff. But the mom and pop stores carried a neighborhood.
Yeah.
A lot of times, if it wasn't for the guy and his pencil letting a family eat until picking time, that family wouldn't have made it.
Or the fact that the daughter's got to be in something and needs a new dress. Some family members getting married and your daughter's got to be in it. You had to be able to go down there to the store and say, look, I need this much material.
Yeah.
And they would put it on, you know, put it on the list, and they'd go ahead and give it to you, and you'd pay it off like he's talking about at harvest time or whatever, or you traded half a cow, or you traded eggs, or you bartered, whatever.
Well, one of the things back in, all women sewed, and you bought flour by the pattern on the sack,
Yes.
because those sacks made skirts,
Shirts,
and they made
blouses.
blouses and shirts, and they'd have the same patterns.
Pajamas for kids.
And the same thing when you bought washing powder, you bought it according to if you needed more glasses to drink out of, or if you needed washcloths and dish towels, because they were in there.
Remember the old work gloves?
Oh yeah.
That had
The gauntlet, and with the big gauntlets
the
up
big
here.
gauntlet up here. I remember that when the gloves wore out and them gauntlets, that the mama would cut it. That gauntlet was made in that way that you could cut it and it would lay out flat. They would trace the foot pattern out and cut it out, and that became the footy in the little baby's pajamas.
Oh yeah.
I remember seeing a lot of them made that way because you work gloves, you'd wear them out in a hurry, the fingers, and etc. The palm, grabbing.
Yeah, even though they were leather.
Even though they're leather, you'd wear them out. Well, if you look at that cuff up there, it was made in a certain way that they could unstitch it and lay it out, and that became the inserts and collars. That was a lot of stuff because it was the fabric that went on to the flour, rice, like you're talking about. But I remember those being, and I remember Granny's sister getting in trouble because she went and bought a brand new pair of gloves to cut that off because she was making a new dress shirt for her husband and wanted a stiff collar. And that's what became the liner inside of this to make the stiff collars for church. And he was mad at her for taking that off his new pair of gloves. He thought she was buying him the gloves for him, and she bought the gloves for that. And she said, no, I'll take old pieces of blue jeans and sew back on there. You can have cuffs on it then. Yeah. He was mad about that.
The gloves back then had a leather palm.
Uh-huh.
Because now they call it steel cable.
Mm-hmm.
But back then we called it wire rope.
Yep.
And of course it had little pieces of steel that had jumped out.
Oh,
and
God,
they would penetrate your hand, but they had that leather palm right across there so you could grab it and pull and not get a wire splinter or steel splinter stuck up in your hand.
When you pulled that cable out and hooked it up and it was tightening up, you only one time forgot and held on to the cable when that thing pulled tight.
And then went boing.
It went boing, and then those sharp little wires just harpooned into you. Yeah. I did that one time. I was sitting there holding the cable up off the ground, you know. Guy hit the winch thing and it pulling it up because we're hooking a sled to pull it out of a barn. And I was holding that damn cable. And when it went boing.
You know, you learned the lesson as the guy that was carrying the cat home by the tail. Now, if you want to carry the cat home by the tail, I say let you. But you're learning a lesson the whole way that nobody else wants to repeat. You know?
Tell the story about when you caught the rattlesnake.
Oh, yeah.
And you didn't think that through now, did you?
No, I didn't. I was 12 years old in Ross Island, owned Silver Springs, Florida. And he was the foremost herpetologist in the United States. In fact, he was the one that took snake venom, diluted it, injected it into his system, where eventually he became immune to certain snake bites. Well, he bought rattlesnakes, and if they were over 5 feet, he paid $1 a foot. Well, I'm going to tell you, to a 12-year-old boy, $5 is a lot of money.
Yes.
Well, one day I caught a bunch of them. I had a sack and all I'd put them into. Well, one day I got myself a timber rattle that was probably 6.5 foot long. He was a granddaddy. Well, I found out I couldn't handle him with one hand. I had him behind the head. In the other hand, I couldn't open the sack and put him in it. So I thought to myself, this snake is going to keep doing this till he can get around and bite me. I need some help. So I went trotting through the swamp.
Yeah.
He came out on the house a mile or so away. He got to the front porch and everybody went inside. And I was begging them to come out and help me with that snake. Just kill it. I done had enough of him that I wanted. And they kept saying, get away from here, boy. Get away from here. Well, I did. And then I ran through the swamps and went to the mill yard. And, of course, one of those old guys at the mill yard just took a 2x4, put my hand down and went, whop! My problem was over. And I didn't sell that particular snake. But I never tried to catch a granddaddy again after that.
Yep. Because you had to learn that that snake can sit there like you're talking about and slowly wiggle, and you're holding as tight as you can, but it will slowly get a half scale at a time.
Oh, yeah.
until he's going to work his way up to where he can bite you.
But I'm going to tell you, I sold many a snake to Mr. Allen, because all of us did. We caught alligators and snakes and what have you. Now, we didn't get anything over 5 foot, because we'd be asking for trouble at our age. But we had these rubber bands that we had cut out of automobile inner tubes, old ones. And you get the gator down and put it around his mouth, and then tie his front feet up behind him, and you basically had him and could carry him anywhere you want. I had one in the back of my car. I had the seat and all out, and I had him back there because it was a junk car, and I could stop from time to time and get a water hose and wet him down, and I was taking him down to Mr. Allen, and I got a hitchhiker in, and we're driving along, and he says, "Where are you going?" I was probably 16 at that time, and I was little, 5'2", and I could barely see up there driving. And I said, "You know, I'm going to Silver Springs, which is 30 or 40 miles away, to Mr. Allen's herbatorium and selling him stuff." And he said, "What do you got?" And I said, "There in the back." And he looked at about 3 or 4 alligators there. I didn't even get to stop the car for him to get out.
He bailed.
It was the same way when I'd pull up to get gas. I never told him what was in the back until after I got the gas in the car.
There you go.
Because then they did not want to come up there with those gators in there.
Yeah. It get you. Don't jump in the back of a pickup at a stoplight either, thinking, "Hey, can you give me a ride?" That's a mistake.
That was a day when a boy could go to school with a 3-bladed pocket knife, and nobody thought a thing about it.
Nobody said a word about it. All us
If he
boys
was
had
an older
pocket knives.
boy and happened to have a pickup that he could drive, it had a shotgun and a rifle on a rack.
Yeah.
Because after school, several of them went hunting.
We're going hunting.
And nobody thought anything about it. Those days of turning a kid loose to grow up are gone.
Yeah.
Because we got all of these safety rules. I'm not saying they're bad. And we got Mother and Daddy hovering around, and I'm not saying that's bad. But they sure didn't let them be the boys we were growing up. I made my first boat. I made my first canoe. I made my first tent. And I made my first teepee, and all of them worked. And I used the patterns for some of it out of the book, Two Little Indians or Two Little Wild Indians.
Yep, I know
by
what you're talking about.
Seton, Ernest Thompson Seton,
Yep.
who was one of the founders of the Boy Scouts, and it was a country cousin and a city cousin spending the summer together on a farm, and they were decided they were going to be Indians, and they were doing all of this stuff.
I've read that book.
Right.
I know what you're talking about.
Well, I've got it still on my shelf, and all the patterns in there are accurate. And that was the patterns I used. I made a 12-foot teepee. Later, when I made a bigger teepee, I made a 16-foot out of fire retardant canvas, and got in big trouble. I'd gone out in the yard and dug a hole I could stand in that was waist deep. And I put Ann's sewing machine there when she was gone. And I could pull this material down through the grass and sew it together. Well, it did perfect on the seams, but it burned up her machine.
That was a mistake.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, yeah. Because Miss Ann could be very vocal about when her stuff gets
Oh,
broken.
I heard about that for years. Every once in a while, when I was thinking that I was maybe a little intelligent, she'd say, "And I remember the time you dug a hole in the yard."
They never forget.
No,
Never.
they don't.
And they will never let you forget either. Well, guys, we're going to keep talking, but I don't want to, run up forever on this. Guys, thank you so much for listening in. Grouch is my great friend and companion, and he has been the greatest mentor of my life. And many of you have requested these videos like this, and there will be more of them coming. Now that it's cooled off and we can come out and sit on the deck and enjoy it, we'll do more of these videos.
It's just a walk down memory lane,
Just
Blackie.
a little walk.
And you told them how you got the name Blackie.
Yes.
Set yourself on fire on the face.
Oh, yes. Well, now, you're We're going to try for Grouch to come down and visit in my spring gathering. He would have come to the fall gathering and hung out for a little bit, but his Basset was having puppies. You may have heard some in the background. So that kept him from coming. But hopefully in the spring he'll come out and hang out with us a little bit. Thank you very much, brother.
Ooh.
Enjoy.
Brother.
Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day.